question number one. The best possible player to fix Boston's offensive process problems, the thing we all talk about constantly about the Celtics. It's not who's going to be available at some exception this summer or who could they realistically trade for with the first-round picks they got for Smart. No, it is literally who out of all of the, 450 players in the NBA, pick one who most checks that box. That's the idea. So it could be anybody from Damian Lillard, who they were kind of in on, Kevin Durant, who they were kind of in on the last year, to Luka Doncic, for all we know, right? So that's the idea. Literally every player is available when we are answering this question. So I will pass it back to you to give your answer. Who would be the best possible player to fix Boston's offensive process problems, Chris?
I want to troll. I'm going to just telling you right now. I'm going to troll you on this one right away. Just kind of like invert the question because I think it immediately means you're replacing Jason Tatum as the best player on this team. That's what this question means to me.
Okay, so this is how we're going to flesh it out because I just, with all of these, sort of took it as like you're just putting something into it. So the Celtics have all their players, and you can put another one on there. But I agree, maybe that's unrealistic because there's only so many guys on a team.
Yeah, and I think with Boston in particular, the way that they play, I think, has largely been dictated by Jaylen Brown and by Jason Tatum. It is those two guys creating the structure and the way they play. They have really good guard play, guys that can set up an offense in a real way, but it hasn't like overridden that need. Like if you said, hey, we got a more traditional third guard that isn't Peyton Pritchard and it's more like a Tyus Jones type, that's not changing, I think, some of the process problems. The process problems as much as they exist.
So you think they stem from Tatum?
Yeah, I think they stem from Tatum. I think they stem not just from Tatum. I think it's from the Jays as a combo. And like if that's how you're building your team, it's from those two guys. So I think if I was going to like add one guy as like an experiment though, and I can't believe I'm going to this is like a very short term, like year and a half kind of vibe thing here. You know who I would want to just like come in and like be the process guy and keep the trains moving guy for Boston? Chris fucking Paul. I just would want to see it. If anyone's going to like make them just like, hey, we're going to move things a certain way. We're going to process things. I'm going to be an absolute like insane person getting you to run sets and come off of screens and not just dribble and jack up three sometimes. It's Chris Paul. I'm just going to say Chris Paul, and we're going to ride that out. And because I think it's either that or you're just changing the star players on this team. You're changing what the Celtics are as we understand them right now.
I like that framing of it. I like the idea that it's not necessarily possible, as we've seen from Kyrie Irving to Gordon Hayward to a much better version of Al Horford once upon a time to Kemba Walker, that it's not as easy as put a guard and their problems are fixed. I think that's fair. And if anybody were to be able to do it, I don't know if 2024 Chris Paul is necessarily doing anything to change any team, but he did just put up almost 20-point triple-double against the Spurs on Monday. So
yeah, Wick, let's invent a time travel machine. We'll get Chris Paul like when he gets to Phoenix, but that Chris Paul comes to Boston. I'm not saying like prime Chris Paul. I'm saying like slightly younger, 3 injuries ago Chris Paul.
Very fair. So my selection here is also going a little bit in a time machine, and it is actually not fully I'm thinking of any player in the whole entire world. It is somebody that they once upon a time did have they made a move on. Kawhi Leonard. Because the thing about Boston, maybe I think of them in OKC as like the East and West versions of each other in a lot of ways. And I think that they're both pretty difficult teams to fit onto. And we're going to talk about the Thunder later, so pin that. And so you kind of need a player that can fit into their defensive identity, who has the kind of drive and kick ability, is going to be fine taking a lot of threes if needed, and is good in transition. that type of thing. So I didn't want to just go like Donovan Mitchell or just pick a guard kind of like you were just saying. It's not that simple. So I actually think you doing the idea of this player might kind of be replacing Tatum serves my answer even better. So I love it. I'm going to go Kawhi Leonard. They almost traded for everybody for about 5 years there, but they did pursue Kawhi in 2018, sorry. And if they had gotten this kind of late prime of his, I think they're substantially better. Just being able to give it to that guy and let him cook late in these games and really just simplify things. I mean, it's just a better version of what Tatum tries to do, frankly.
Yeah, I like that answer. I think also you're also getting like another level of the defense, I think, elevated in that case, just because we know what the differentiations are of Tatum and Kawhi as defenders at their absolute peak. In Kawhi, I think the difference between I think him and Tatum, if you wanted to really drill it down, is just that you think he's a little more ruthless. I think he's just a little more willing, like has the track record to get the midi that actually ices a game instead of the three or just some kind of weird late game mistake in that specific way, like that Tatum is prone to. Kawhi is just not prone to that stuff. Maybe he doesn't make every game winning shot, but he is not prone to the kind of style that Tatum is. So I think that's a great answer.
I mean, he feels like he's. There have been some seasons where it would be hard to say he hasn't made every late game shot. It feels that way sometimes with him, but I would say he's a little bit of a better passer, right? And I think he trusts his handle more. So I think those two things just kind of allow him to have the control over these moments where Tatum just feels uneasy all the time.
Control's, I think, the good way to put it, because I don't think of Kawhi's handle as like you're not getting like YouTube highlight reels dedicated to his handle in the way you might for Kyrie, but it is so strong and forceful that I think it differentiates a certain thing. Can I say the funniest solution to this that came to mind that I don't think is actually a good answer, but would be like the funniest outcome to this? It'd be James Harden. Imagine James Harden.
Yeah, no.
It's like, hey, let's get point guard James Harden, but he just starts taking like ISO step back threes, and it's like, okay, great. We're screwed even more. Great. I had like a long list, and he was on it, and then I was like, I can't. We can't do this.
I thought about Luka, but I think that's too far in the other direction.